Okay, good morning, everybody. Welcome to the May Oldham County Board of Adjustments. My name is Larry Otterback. It's 9 o'clock and we are now in session. We have 5 cases this morning. Procedures for all 5, it's going to be the same. Here in a minute, I'm going to swear staff in. Gretchen will read the docket. Staff's going to give us a staff report. There will be a round of questioning by board members to staff, and when we're done with that, staff's going to take a seat. I'm going to call you, the applicant, forward. You'll come forward to the podium, to the microphone, raise your right hand, be sworn in, state your name and address, and justify your project. Please speak directly into the microphone. Things are being recorded, and it's very difficult to hear in the back if you're not speaking directly into the mic. At that point, there will be a round of questioning by board members to you, the applicant, and when we're done with that, you may take a seat. I'll call forward anybody that wishes to speak in favor of the application, and then those opposed to the application. Same thing, you're going to come forward, speak directly into the microphone, you're going to raise your right hand, get sworn in, state your name and address, tell us why you're opposed, or in favor, tell us why you're opposed. There might be a round of questioning by board members to you. When we're done with that, you may take a seat. The applicant will have time for rebuttal of any opposition and then final statements. There'll be, might be a round of questioning by board members to anybody in the audience at that time. And then I'm going to close the floor for public hearing, open it up for general discussion among the board members, and call for an up and down vote. Please make sure your phones are off or on vibrate. If you need to use them, please excuse yourself from the courtroom. Just make sure it's off when you come back in. And board members, please make sure mics are on. And with that, let's swear staff in.
Do you solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Thank you.
Okay, Gretchen, if you would like to read the first one, please.
OC 23-016, an application has been filed requesting front and rear yard setback variances for a proposed single-family residence with an attached garage at a property located at 6281 Clore Lane, Crestwood.
Good morning, Brian Fogel, Assistant Director. The application in front of you all right now is a request for front and rear yard setback variances at 6281 Clore Lane, which is lot 299 in Brentwood subdivision. The proposal is the variances for the purpose of building a single-family residence. Proper notification was given for today's hearing on the county's website, adjoining property owners, and the Oldham Mirror newspaper. It's an aerial photograph showing the location of the property. It's highlighted in red here. So just kind of going out and working our way towards it. This is the Crestwood interchange here, Highway 329 bypass, O329 right here, and then Spring Hill Trace up to the traffic circle here. If you go this way, that's Clore Lane going out to Highway 22. And then Clore Lane is right here. And you can tell from this photo, the earth that's been graded there. Those are the new sections of Brentwood subdivision, which also includes this particular lot right here. The history that's on this property is all related to the creation of Brentwood subdivision, where in 2008, the preliminary plan for Brentwood was approved. In August of 2019, there was an amended preliminary plat addressing the road layout, and then August of this past year was the approval of Section 8, which created Lot 299, which is the property that's subject to today's variance request. Lot 299 is right here, and then what we've got highlighted here is the zoning line, where on this side of the zoning line, the properties are zoned R2. On this side of the zoning line, the properties are zoned conservation residential, and you are allowed to have subdivisions and single-family homes in conservation residential. The impact is there are differing setbacks than if you're on this particular side of the line. So the applicant's lot 299 is right here, and it's a corner lot. Zoning in the area, conservation here, the R2 here, the lot highlighted in red. And the specific request to build a home on this property is that the Conservation Zoning District has a 50-foot front yard setback requirement. The applicant is proposing a 35.5-foot front yard setback, which requires a variance of 15.5 feet. And then the rear yard setback in the Conservation Zoning District is 40 feet, and they're proposing a 25.5-foot setback, which requires a variance of 14.5 feet. In their justification statement as part of their application, they explain that this is a corner lot with greater setbacks than in the neighboring properties that are elsewhere in Brentwood, which makes it difficult to locate a house on the property that would be comparable to the style and size of houses in Brentwood subdivision. This is a building elevation of the house that they're proposing on the property, and then their plot plan showing the location of the house on Lot 299. And they've highlighted in yellow where, if you all approve the variance, the house would be encroaching past the 50-foot front yard setback line and then the 40-foot rear yard setback line. And because it is a corner lot, it has 2 front yards. The front yard for setback purposes. The front yard here along Clore Lane, and then the street side setback requirement here on Brentwood. They are meeting the 50-foot setback requirement along Brentwood. And then some photos of the site. This is looking back towards the developing portions of Brentwood. So Lot 299 is over here. There are houses popping up everywhere back there. This is actually looking at 299. This house is the backyard that fronts on Brentwood. And then this is just looking at the fact that it's a corner lot that's located right here. So in summary, they're asking you all for the variances in the front and rear yard setback requirements. With that concludes staff's presentation. We have not received any correspondence, emails, or phone calls regarding this application.
Okay, questions?
So I have a question. A conservation residential district, how does that get created? I don't understand how that works. Presumably, I know you can do a conservation easement where property taxes are reduced because a property goes into a conservation easement. Is this a conservation residential district? Is that related to that, or how does something get into a conservation residential district?
It is 2 separate issues in terms of the tax purposes and then the actual zoning on the property. The best explanation I can give for the conservation residential zoning district is that when the county adopted zoning in the 1980s, with very broad brushes, they designated areas that go in natural areas where there might be steep slopes, creek beds as conservation. And then they designated other areas as industrial, commercial, or residential. So that zoning has carried forward into the present, and it has different setback requirements. But in terms of an allowable use, we have whole subdivisions out in other parts of the county that are zoned conservation residential or agricultural residential.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
I'm going to just add one thing to that, because I think you've asked this question in a previous hearing. This is a zoning classification, conservation, which is a regulation by ordinance. The conservation easements that you talk about are voluntary easements placed on property by individuals who want that. We don't regulate those at all.
What are the front and rear yard setbacks for R2?
35 feet on the front, and I'm going to double check my 25 on the rear.
35 and 25?
That's correct.
Could you put the map back up that showed where that is, that split?
That one?
Yeah.
Or, okay.
Okay, so the rear yard, so could you point out to the subject property again?
Yes. It's right here.
Okay, thank you. And the rear yard abuts, that is is there anything there?
There's not anything there. There is a house. I'm going to backpedal just a little bit. When I went out and visited the site, there is a house under construction. I can't say with absolute certainty whether it's in this lot or this lot, but there is a house under construction in this vicinity here that would have its backyard backing up to this proposed house.
Okay. All right, any other questions?
Yes. Is this a Section 8 residence that they're building? Or is this proposed to be a Section 8 residence?
This is Section 8 of Brentwood subdivision.
Okay.
All right, any other questions? Okay, thank you. And if we can have the applicant come forward? Morning.
Hello, good morning.
I'll need you to get sworn in and state your name and address, please.
Raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear, are you going to be speaking?
I'm the attorney for the applicant.
Oh, sorry.
I'll be happy to swear
You
in.
don't have to. Do you solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
And name and address if you're going to be
Don
speaking.
Williams, attorney, First and Main, LaGrange. I'm introducing the owner of TJM Custom Homes, the real applicant, Mike Bronca. That's what microphone's on. Yep, got it. The owner of this lot is TJM Custom Homes, owned by Mike Bronca, who's here to answer the questions today. As you've been told, it's a corner lot. Trying to squeeze this house onto it properly would require these two variances concerning a covered porch in the front and the garage in the back.
Okay.
I'm Mike Branca. I live at 5118 Fox Run Road in Buckner.
All right, questions for the applicants? So is it what we're looking at here, is it the covered porch that is causing the request for the front and part of the garage that's causing the request for the rear?
It is the covered porch and the section just after the covered porch is part of the house as well,
Okay,
in yellow. And then, yes, it is the garage as well.
okay. And so could you tell us the hardship of if this were not granted?
Being able to put a house on the property that's comparable within Brentwood. These are the larger lots in Section 8. It's an acre lot. Most of them are only a third acre. This particular one, because of the depth of it and with these requirements for the setbacks, it only allows you, I only have approximately 62 feet, I believe, how it's arched in the front, about 62 feet, be able to fit a house. And it's extremely difficult to put a nice size home on those properties. The adjacent lots, if you look at those, they're much larger. Most of them are over 200 feet deep. So even if they were a CO1 in those zones, they're able to fit, depth like that, having, a garage aft of the house.
Yeah, and why can we not reposition the garage, push the house back a little bit, and still fall within the setbacks?
I actually took the garage, turned it 90 degrees. 90 degrees to where I had the driveway sitting back near the edge of where the easement is on the back, and it was extremely difficult to even fit that.
What were the difficulties? What do you mean it was extremely difficult?
I still would be in a setback. There's not enough room to be able to, fit this house that we want to put on the property. This is a house I'm building for our personal house,
Is this a 2 or 3 car garage?
3-car garage.
3-car,
Where,
okay.
the majority of property, especially having, again, this is an acre lot compared to, the rest of them. And a lot of even the, third of an acre, we could fit 3-car garages on the majority of them.
Okay.
Yeah, and, well, to that point, making it a 2-car garage, would that fit within the regulations?
That would only take off approximately 12 feet, so it still won't fit.
Yeah. And again, we can't put the, yeah, there's no other way to position the garage to get it on the property?
Even if I took the garage and turned it, it would be like having a 2-car garage. So it would still end up putting me, it would cut off approximately 12 feet only.
Further questions? Okay, thank you, guys. You may take a seat. Is there anybody here wishing to speak in favor of the application? Opposed to the application? Ryan, can you come back and go to the, keep going, right? Yeah, that's good enough. Okay. Board members, questions for anybody else before we close the floor? What's the size of this lot? Is it comparable to all the others? Tell me the lot itself. Why are we in a position, why have we sold a lot and developed a lot as is that is different or doesn't fall within the character of the rest of the lots?
Okay. And so the,
That's true. Thank you. But let's come back forward and may ask you the same question. Thank you, Jim. So the question, why have we created the lot as is that makes it such that it's not comparable to the other lots in the subdivision?
Because look, when you measure with the setbacks, the actual building area that you have is 65 feet. That's all you have. And if you look at even on the third acres, they're much larger and they have less restrictions. So they have a bigger footprint to put a house on. Having this 50-foot, I mean, the lot's an acre, but it's very wide. It's not deep. It's very narrow for an acre lot. So it's only 167, or what, I apologize, I can't remember exactly, but I believe it's like 167. You can see how it arches in the middle. So when you take off about 11 feet from that 167, I'm only down to about 60 feet. And that doesn't give you much footprint at all for a house. All the adjacent lots, all the larger ones, you can see, some of them are over 200 feet on, even on the one next to me, he has over 200 and something feet. He can fit that, reverse the garage and have it, further back and fit one in there, no problem.
Yeah, but even the one behind it, is there already a home on the one behind it?
That's the one under construction, and that one, he's deeper on, if looking at the map here on the right-hand side, he has much more depth.
Right.
I do not have that. That's the issue I have. I don't have enough depth to fit a nice house comparable for Brentwood that we want to build.
So what are the size of the house that's on the proposed property? Is this already under construction?
No, it's not.
It's, okay. So what's the size of the proposed home?
I believe it's 3,500 square ranch home.
And then the one, next to it, talk to me about the general character of the area. 3,500 square feet, tell me about the one left, right, across the
There's
street.
no other homes under construction except the one behind me, and that's a big two-story. I'm not sure the footprint of that one. It's, right now, they just framed it, so I couldn't really tell you.
All right, board members, anything else? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Board members, questions for anybody else in the audience before I close the floor? All right, I'll close the floor, open it up for discussion.
So the questions arising because of the difference in.
Talk to the mic.
Excuse me. The questions are arising because of the difference in zoning, not because of the, there are other, am I understanding that correctly, that this particular lot falls into a different zoning characterization? And other properties in that subdivision have less requirements for setbacks? Is that where we're,
Well-
that's the question. That's the reason.
If it's
for
an R1, it would meet,
It would meet if it
it
were
would meet
R1.
them.
R2.
R2,
I'm
rather,
sorry,
sorry, R2. It
But
would meet the
since-
requirements within a half a foot either way.
Right.
But because it's in the conservation and because of the shape of the lot, they have to have an exception.
That's right.
And even if they modified the plans a little bit, there would be some degree of variance needed to put this house, this particular house, on this lot. So, one way or the other, they would need.
That's right, as it's currently spec'd out.
Yeah.
So you could fit a home on this lot. I'm challenged with lots being created that are created that aren't buildable to meet the general character of the other homes in the subdivision, right? So it is a buildable lot. Why not fall within the regulations to build on the lot? You can absolutely do that here, absolutely.
I think it sounds like, it's a choice of, it's a ranch, not a two-story.
Yeah. Now, and also the fact that, well, right next door is an R2 and it does fall within the setbacks of right next door.
Right.
So I'll allow, the grace to, that, but I still find it difficult to create lots that, and then you come here and say, well, it's not a buildable lot, to what we want, we need variances. Well, no, you don't. I'm in favor of doing this simply because right next door, it does fall with the setback. But I am challenged with, well, why did you create the lot like it is? Yeah, Jim.
First of all, the applicant did not create the lot, of course. It was done when the subdivision was approved originally, and when they do that, there's not a specific house plan for each lot. When we're going through the planning commission to approve subdivisions, and we see lots that look like they might be difficult to build on, maybe mostly because of the shape, we ask them to put a building footprint, but it's a generic building footprint. I wasn't here when this was approved, but again, I imagine that because it was a 1 acre, it was approved by the planning commission as part of the whole subdivision plan. Again, now a specific building plan is coming forward. This is the one that the builder wants to put on this lot, or a client wants to put on this lot. If they put a completely different building on it, it might fit, you're correct. But again, the key point is they didn't create the lot or the setbacks.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. All right, any other discussion? If not, I'm ready for a motion.
Motion to approve OC 23-017 for.
I'm sorry, did you say 0?
I'm sorry, I'm looking at the wrong paper. Scratch that. Motion to approve OC 23016 for an application for a minimum front and rear yard setbacks at the property located at 6281 Clore Lane. The variance, motion to approve the variance because it will not adversely affect the public health, safety, or welfare, and will not alter the essential character of the general vicinity, and will not cause a hazard or nuisance to the public. It will not allow an unreasonable circumvention of the requirements of the zoning regulation because the requested variances arise from special circumstances which do not generally apply to the land in the general vicinity of the same zone. The variance shall only apply to the application considered on the May 18th, 2023 Oldham County Board of Adjustments public hearing.
Okay, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? It's been approved.
Good.
All right, and if you want to read the next one, please.
OC 23-017, an application has been filed requesting the removal of a previously issued parking surface waiver at the private event space on a property located at 8502 Todds Point Road, Crestwood.
All right, thank you. Ryan Fisher, Senior Planner with Oldham County Planning and Development. So as Ms. Chitwood stated, this is for 8502 Todds Point Road on the removal of a previously issued parking surface waiver. So here is your parcel information. It is in a CO1 conservation as well as an R2 residential district. Sits on 34.86 acres out close to the Shelby County line. Here is an aerial photo of the space and your zoning. So a little bit of this case history. These agendas were posted on the county website on the 28th of April. Sent out the adjoining property owner notices on the 3rd of May, and our public notice appeared in the Oldham Era on the 4th of May. I did remail the adjoining property owner notices because I found that my letter had an incorrect address of 109 LaGrange Road, which is another project I'm working on. So I resent those adjoining property owner notices out to all of them again with the correct address highlighting that. So I just wanted to make note of that. So a little bit of the site history. Back on September 19th, 2019, this body approved a conditional use permit and that parking surface waiver, which was OC 19035, and I have attached that record in your packets to look at for both of those for that private event space and club that is located here at 8502 Todds Point Road. The conditional use permit passed on a vote of 3-1, and that parking surface waiver, which allowed the venue to use a non-hard surface material, meaning they were going to park in the grass field for that parking of automobiles and vehicles, and that waiver passed on a vote of 4-0. So the applicant is now requesting the removal of that previously issued parking surface waiver, and I'll let them kind of really justify their project. But since opening, they've had a lot of issues with rain and mud in the grass lots. So it's just a little bit of brief for there, and then they'll be able to justify that a lot more. So Section 280-150, the parking lot layout and design, requires that off-street parking must be kept in a dust-free condition. And Section 260-340, public or private clubs, which deal with our event centers, require that our off-street parking areas be kept in a dust-free condition. In addition, parking areas that are located in between a public street and the principal building also shall be paved. That is in our regulations as well. So all of that is what that waiver encompassed when they met back in 2019. And those regulations as well are attached in your staff packets for you to look at. So the applicant now wishes to pave that parking area due to wet and muddy conditions that have occurred since they opened. And the applicant has also, and I'll just touch on this briefly, has proposed a 5-year plan for the property, which plans to add some future parking to allow some additional parking and things like that. But it'll probably be something they come back and revisit the board on, looking at their previously issued conditional use permit. So a little bit there. And then you'll see here on the drawings here in just a second where they're kind of plan to move the parking to. So here are those regulations that I talked about a second ago, which are in your staff packet, section 260-340 as well as 280-150. And just here are some pictures of the property. These are actually from that 2019 case, some photos from the grounds. Here is directly across the road from the venue. And then a look up the driveway coming in. So the parking has been taking place over here on this right side directly in front of the home. They are planning to move it over to this lot. You'll see these in a second when I show you some additional diagrams the applicant has provided. And then just here's a couple looks down Todd's Point Road, either direction. This will be that area where they plan to put the new parking. Here is the original site plan that they provided from that 2019 case, showing the main house, showing their proposed parking. The ADA compliant parking will stay the same. They're just planning to add parking now to this left side of the driveway. So here is your current parking area that they have been using, that they've had issues with the mud and the grass not being able to grow in those locations. And then here to the left where the blue box is, which doesn't do a whole lot on this particular site plan, but shows where they propose to place the parking. And it's in this general area here. And they have provided this. This was not included in your staff packets because I just got this a couple days ago. So they had a company come in and lay out how they would need to do their parking to be able to get 100 to 150 vehicles in there. And so this is their parking lot diagram of where they propose to place that parking lot. So in summary, the applicant's requesting the removal of that previously issued parking surface waiver that'll allow for them to pave that parking lot. The removal of the previously issued approved waiver shall only apply to the plans reviewed today at this May 18th, 2023 Oldham County Board of Adjustments public hearing is the only condition of approval on this. And with that, staff concludes their presentation. I have not received anything in writing or phone calls about this project, so entertain any questions if you have them.
Questions?
So without the waiver, they could do the parking lot anyway. We're not approving a parking lot.
Right.
Okay.
So, yeah, they asked for a waiver back in 2019 to allow it to be parked on grass. And
Right.
I believe in their justification, it was to maintain that character of the, but they've just since run into a lot of problems, which they'll be able to talk about.
Okay.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you. If we can have the applicant come forward. Good morning. Need to get you both sworn in.
Do you solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I swear.
Thank you.
I do.
And name and address.
I'm Tina Powell-Dolt. We live at 5912 Mount Pleasant Road in Prospect, Kentucky, which is Oldham County.
Fred Dolt, 5912 Mount Pleasant Road, Prospect.
Okay. And justify the project. Tell us what you're trying to do.
Just trying to remove the waiver that we asked for back in 2019. My focus for the venue has been customer experience because myself gone to other weddings before and just how things kind of, don't work out well. But the parking is becoming an area of opportunity for us as far as the customer experience, guest experience when they come in. I had a complaint actually a couple of weeks ago. It rained. It's not probably about a month ago. But it was raining on a Saturday and everyone was sliding in trying to drive up to the parking area. And plus with all the mud, when they pull back out to the road and they're, the mud is on the streets. So I'm trying to get away from that and just work on the actual customer experience there. We have tried other options. I've tried chalk spray paint. And of course it's grass, so it grows. And especially during the summer, it gets cut off. Plus, I think that a lot of people struggle to park in a grass area, so we consistently have to have at least 4 parking attendants to make sure everyone parks accurately to get 150 cars in that area.
Okay. All right, were you approaching Mike? You have anything to say?
Well, I was just going to say, and I think one of the things we did not anticipate was a significant number of our guests have chosen to use that front space as their site for their actual wedding, not just for the reception and the rest of the property. And by the nature of the timing, the growing season is when we're open, and it's constantly weekly travel over that area. And then when our season slows down in November, we haven't been able to maintain the grass as well as we had hoped.
And I did include some pictures, Ryan has them, of just how it looks currently. I've tried to use lava rock, and hopefully it'll break down, and it is helping a little bit, but it's weekly trips to Lowe's and bringing in lava rock. So I'm doing the best I can, but like I said, it's become, pretty bad.
All right, questions? My main question, why? Why are you here to revoke a previously issued? All right, so I understand what you're trying to do. Prevent people from parking here, build another paved, and you're able to do that without being here, do the paved. And it's unique to ask to have a conditional use revoked. We have had, these recently, but why? Why not just say, I keep the permit that I have, but I'm not going to use the permit. Instead, I'm going to build parking lot over here.
I thought that's what we're supposed to do, is come before you all to ask for permission.
Okay.
I'd rather ask for permission, than forgiveness later and then be in trouble with you all.
So I'll tell you that the permit, it does run with the land. That's exactly right. A conditional use permit runs with the land. So if you guys were to sell this place or whatever, there would always be a conditional use permit there, unless you come here today and revoke it, which is exactly what you've done, and that's fantastic. Okay.
Well, I don't want to
Is
use
that
the
what you were going
actual-
to say?
Oh, I said I didn't want to remove the conditional use permit, just the waiver for the parking.
Right.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. Yes.
Okay, okay, I was confused. Sorry.
Yes.
And I just want to say, she came in and met with us about, some things that they want to do to their property, kind of also looking at the conditional use permit down the road, coming back to revisit you all again. So I want to make sure everybody's clear that the conditional use permit stays
Yes,
as
I
is. Nothing is
apologize,
changing
yes.
there. But we did tell her, come in and deal with that parking surface waiver first, so you can change the location of the parking to that other side, and then we'll come back and revisit that stuff later on with,
Okay.
with the other things they're wanting to do on that 5-year plan.
Well, Ryan, while you're there, it just begs the question, from what the chair is saying, do they need to get this revoked? Can't they put in a parking lot and leave the waiver?
Well,
Yeah, and it's also moving it is,
But you're not moving the waiver. The waiver would still be on that front lot. So that was one of my original points is, without that waiver, they could put the parking lot where they want to put the parking lot. They don't need to remove the waiver.
well, my answer to that, this does run with the land.
Yes.
So we're cleaning it up,
if
getting
you-
rid of the waiver.
But if you've got a waiver and you don't want to use it, like you were saying,
Yeah.
then why are they here?
They did.
Why did you bring them here? Was
The
this
applicant's being
necessary?
very diligent about what they're doing there, and they're expanding, and they're successful, and there are a number of reasons why they want to move the parking. It really is also that they've changed the CUP and that the location of the parking moves as well. So maybe we misspoke on what we asked them to request as opposed to revising their CUP, but because they're wanting to make sure they do everything right and they're taking this step, we said, let's just do this.
It
And it wasn't
cleans,
to be frivolous and make them come here for no reason. It was because every step of the way, they want to make sure that they're in compliance with what the requirements of the regulations are.
Okay.
So moving the parking area is not, they wouldn't have to come to us if they only wanted to move the
Well,
parking area?
it essentially changes the initial conditional use permit because there wasn't parking on that side.
Okay.
It does.
So really, maybe we mislabeled the application and should have said a revised conditional use permit.
well, I think removing the original request, the waiver, it creates a clean slate. It cleans this project. So when they come back for the next thing, it's a,
Yeah. Right.
Understandable,
So what's
yes.
the problem?
And when we talked to them, when we looked at it, and while, we can sit there and talk about whether or not that changes the conditional use permit, the conditional use permit talked about the event space, how many people they're going to have. You all have dealt with those before. What's the maximum number of occupants? What are the hours of operation? The parking number isn't isn't changing. They are still allowed that 150 spots and all that. So they're just really moving the location because of the issues they've had with the mud, and now choosing to pave it for that reason, which doesn't need the waiver. So
Yeah, right.
I may have confused you all more after saying that, but.
Okay, anything else? Any other questions for the applicant? All right, thank you, guys. All right, is there anybody wishing to speak in favor of the application? Opposed to the application? Board members, questions for anybody in the audience?
Actually, for staff, when we rule on this, should we include as part of the variance, the moving of the current parking area? Just to be thorough?
Well, we've got the potential condition of approval is it shall only apply to the plans reviewed, which shows that parking moved. So I would think that covers that in the conditions of approval.
All right, thank you.
Okay, anything else? All right, if not, I'm ready for a motion.
All right. Motion to approve OC 23-017 for the removal of a previously issued parking surface waiver at a private event space at the property located 8502 Todd's Point Road in Crestwood. The design innovations of this case, which is hard surface parking, will achieve the basic objectives of the regulations. The variance shall only apply to the application considered at the September 19th, Is that correct in the conditions? Because that gives the date of the first. Okay, now I just want to make sure. Consider that the September 19th, 2019 Oldham County Board of Adjustments public hearing. Events held Sunday through Thursday will end at 10 p.m., including amplified sound. Weekend events Friday through Saturday will end at 12 a.m. Amplified sound will end at 11 p.m. The maximum number of guests for the property would be 350, and there shall be no light.
So
Yeah, I'm a little.
if we don't need to rehash the conditions of approval for the previous conditional use.
I think that's connected to the date. Okay, that's my understanding.
It's what?
It's connected to the date in
Oh,
the
it's
conditions
connected
of
to the date.
approval. Again, I think this is just to be making sure all the Ts are crossed and Is are dotted.
Okay, all right. Keep
But
going.
I understand what you're saying. I thought twice about it.
Okay,
I'm sorry. Oh, the maximum number of guests for the property would be 350, and there shall be no lighting, trespassing onto adjoining properties. I'd like to add that any future plans to further expand the parking by 100 to 150 spaces, as mentioned, will require a separate variance from the Oldham County Board of Adjustments. And that is my motion.
okay. Do we have a second?
Second.
Discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? All right, it's been approved. And if you'd like to read the next one, Gretchen?
OC 23-018, an application has been filed requesting a conditional use permit for a non-owner occupied short-term rental property located at 2590 North Highway 393, LaGrange.
All right, Ryan Fisher, Senior Planner, Oldham County Planning. So an application's been filed requesting this conditional use permit for a non-owner occupied short-term rental property at 2590 North Highway 393 in LaGrange. Here's the site information for you. It's in an R2 residential area, 3.7 acres of land. But the site history on February 12, 2018, a minor plat was approved to create 2 tracks from 1. and that was 18-022. For this case, it was posted to the website on the 29th of April. Adjoining property owner notices were mailed on the 4th, and the public notice appeared in the Old Emera as well on the 4th of May. Here is the property in question and the zoning for the property. So the applicant is requesting that conditional use permit for the non-owner occupied short-term rental. And as we've seen before, section 250-050, item A states that a non-owner occupied short-term rental, who is the owner of the property that does not permanently reside in that short-term rental or in a principal residential unit in which the short-term rental property is associated with on the same lot. And furthermore, that requires them to then come before you for that conditional use permit for the short-term rental, which we're pretty familiar at seeing. The submitted plans show a two-story, 3,825 square foot structure, 4 bedrooms, 3.5 bathrooms, a 1,320 square foot basement and in-ground swimming pool. Here are a couple of the floor diagrams that the applicant provided. And this is what he'll have to, just so you all know, this is what he'll also have to provide for the short-term rental application, showing the smoke detector locations and things of that nature. So that's a question we get a lot, but this is the floor plan that he has submitted for that. And then just a couple pictures of the property, looking at one from the road, and then a couple of pictures going north down 393, and then down the hill looking south on 393. So in summary, the applicant's requesting a conditional use permit for the non-owner occupied short-term rental property. Potential conditions of approval. The conditional use permit shall only apply to the application considered at this May 18th, 2023 Oldham County Board of Adjustments public hearing. Applicant shall comply with all regulations concerning short-term rental properties outlined in Oldham County zoning regulations, section 250-050, and the applicant shall apply for and be issued a short-term rental property permit before renting the property. And with that being said, that concludes staff's presentation. I have not received anything in writing or phone calls from anybody. And with that, I'll entertain any questions.
Any questions?
Is this a bed and breakfast or a rental of, is that something that?
Yeah, you'll
okay.
have to ask him
All
on
right.
what he intends to do.
I was
Yeah.
going to, yeah,
Yeah.
I think,
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
If we can have the applicant come forward. Morning.
Good morning.
And, well, I have to get you sworn in. Are you an attorney or?
I am.
Okay, are you going to be speaking?
Yeah.
Let's go ahead and get you sworn in.
Raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear to tell the truth and the whole truth, but and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. Go ahead.
My name is Stephen Houston. I'm an attorney at 10801 US Highway 42 in Prospect. And I'm here on behalf of the applicant today, which is STR LLC. And the representative for STR LLC is Mr. Kelly Jacobson, and he is here today to speak on behalf of the application and answer any questions that you may have. I would just start with this is something that will benefit this area. It will bring tourism and will bring people who want to spend money at local areas, you know.
Stephen, I apologize to cut you off. Check to
Yes.
make sure the mic is on. Do you have a little green
I
light?
don't think it's on.
Okay.
It's not very good.
Okay,
I
all
feel
right.
like I'm speaking close to it, but not close enough, apparently. My apologies. But that concludes what I wanted to say about it, and I'd just like to hand over to Mr. Jacobson.
Okay, thank you.
Hello, good morning. My name is Kelly Jacobson. I own the property at 2590 North Highway 393 in LaGrange. I reside in Knoxville, Tennessee, so I'm not local.
Okay. Anything else to add that Stephen didn't already cover?
I mean, I guess for your all's information, I own other short-term rentals in a couple different states. So this isn't something that I'm new at or unfamiliar with. It's something that I do for a profession. So we take it very seriously. So anyone that stays with us has a certain expectation of the quality that they're gonna, of accommodations that they're gonna receive. And we hold that true no matter whether it's here or in any other state that we provide our housing. So, and with that, obviously there's going to be neighbors and different things with properties, but we require our guests to be very respectful of not only our property, but of all the neighboring property owners as well.
Okay. All right, questions for anybody?
Raises a question. I thought when we typically have short-term rentals, we have someone in the area that monitors and manages the property.
Yep.
Who do you have to provide that service since you live in Knoxville?
Yeah, so I have my cleaner. She is my local eyes and ears every day on the property. However, with the way that short-term rentals have evolved over time, remote owners are a lot more prevalent with the ability of technology and with cameras and the speed to communication with guests and things like that. So it allows for owners to be able to directly communicate with guests at a quicker speed than previously had may have been able to happen over the last couple of decades and things like that. So yes, we do have someone here locally that is able to, on a drop of a dime, come down and check on something if there is some sort of emergency situation. But yeah.
Okay.
So I want to say real quick, and I wasn't obviously here when that regulation was wrote, but I think the 25-mile thing does have to do with emergency purposes and things like that, if they need to have somebody show up at the residence for whatever. Part of that short-term rental application that he would have to fill out if this is approved here today and has to come get a permit requires that he put down a person that resides within 25 miles. We check that before we issue the permit to say, is this person within that 25-mile area? So part of that will take place later on when he applies for that permit, that they do have that person, that responsible party.
Okay, yeah. From my position, this is the first one of these that I've heard that we have a remote owner, and that's why I was concerned about who is going to, because we've had the ones down at the river, we've had other things where we want to have someone available for immediate problems, so that's why I raised the question.
I think what you're asking is for them to identify where that person would be. That, I didn't hear that as an answer, even though that's part of the application. You're wanting to know, okay, where is that person located?
Well, if it's not part of this application, it's going to be part of the next application.
Yes.
So,
Your level of confidence, again, is you want to know where that person is before we even get to that step.
yeah, he referred to a cleaner, but I don't know if that person resides in Louisville or E-Town or where they are. I have no idea.
So my cleaner is, just 1 second here. Stewart Cleaning and Restoration. I do not have their address on person at the moment. I know it's going to be in the application that I submit, but I don't have they're local. So they're within the 25 miles. I don't have their address right off the top of my head. I just don't, sorry.
And they're available 24 hours a day?
Yes.
Should there be an issue at the house?
Correct.
Okay.
I guess my question would be is, with the people that you have that are here close, ones that represent you, what kind of authority do they have in terms of decision making? That you do, I mean, like you would be able to make all the decisions. Those people, would they have that same authority in case of an emergency or something?
That's a good question. And I don't know that I have an answer for you, as I've never come across an instance of an actual emergency. I would probably default to them allowing them to make the decision to call the proper authorities for whatever need that might be. And they would have the decision-making ability.
I asked that question, basically, you said you have remote stuff that you can deal with. Is that 24 hours, 7 days a week, where if something happens, you would be available to make any decision like that?
Yes.
with any other authorities that may have to show up?
Yes.
To deal with that issue?
So properties that I own, this thing, right, this is the lifeblood of the business, right? The ability to use this to see who has accessed my doors, to see my cameras, who has come in or out of the property, and that type of thing. So this is always on me. This is always with my wife, whatever that might be. There's multiple people that have access to this information. So there's always 24/7 availability.
And who is it, again, that will be monitoring, that's within the 25-mile range?
So I have a cleaner to do any, if absolutely somebody has to be on site to do something.
And who is
for
this
an
cleaner?
Emergency. Their name is Stewart Cleaning and Restoration.
So it's not a
them
particular
as-
individual.
I
Yeah,
have
I
them
mean,
in
the owner is
Pendleton.
Janessa Stewart, and her daughter run the business.
And they are in Pendleton on Pattons Creek Road, so that would be within the 25 miles. So the distance doesn't seem to be an issue. The availability or the scope of their service might be, considering that they're just cleaners. But
Yeah, and we have a laundry list of other service providers to the property, right? Whether it's lawn care, if a tree comes down or something like that, they're local. We've got handyman. We've got a whole laundry list of people to service the property for us, all of which can come at a reasonable time depending upon the situation, right? If it's a downed tree, well, I'm going to call my landscaper to come and figure out the situation, and if need be, we can remove the guests and put them in a hotel or some other sort of situation.
That's a good point. Let's say you had a down tree. How long would it take for you to make a decision to get that taken care of? How fast would that happen?
As soon as the call comes in, I'll make the decision.
And how is somebody going to know that there is a down tree?
I guess the cleaners are.
Well, I mean, so if I don't have a guest there, right? If that's where I don't have someone there, I've got weekly services, whether it's pool or lawn, pest control.
Whose responsibility is it? Somebody's staying there. Is it their responsibility to call you and say there's a down tree? Is it the pool guy? Is it his responsibility? Is it the garbage guy? Somebody needs to monitor this thing and
Yes.
say, hey, it's my responsibility to notify, Mike that it is Mike, right? Kelly, I'm sorry, that there is a down tree. It's my responsibility to notify Kelly that there's excessive noise. It's my responsibility to notify Kelly that blah, blah, somebody has to manage this property. And it's not the pool boy's responsibility, and it's not the people staying there. It's not their responsibility.
Right.
Somebody has to have responsibility for this property.
Right. So I, as the owner, have full responsibility of the property, period. End of story, correct? Now, I have people in place to tell me if something happens that is part of their scope of work, right? In this case, a downed tree. I have weekly lawn. They would come and they would handle that situation, right? If there's some other situation such as noise or something like that, now, will any of us know of that immediately? No, but I have procedures in place to ensure that we don't have loud noise, right? We have number of guest restrictions. We have cameras to see, it's not inside and intrusive, but I have it strategically placed on the property so that we can see, okay, they're back in the fire pit. It's also I can hear it on the camera, how loud they are. Same thing on the front of the house, how many people are coming and going, right? So I can make a risk assessment to see how many people are coming and going and that type of thing for noise monitoring purposes. But at the end of the day, yes, it is my full responsibility.
And I guess my concern basically is I'm trying to figure out if a property management, somebody that's going to be there every day, maybe not 24/7, but from 8 in the morning till some particular time of the day that would be able to give you that information so that you can make the decision to do whatever it is that needs to be done. By you living so far away, that would be my concern.
So to address that question, a property manager would not be there 24/7, right? This isn't a hotel.
No, not 24/7, but from 8 to 5 or 8 to 4? Somebody that would be there to tell you what's happening now?
At the property?
Yeah, at the property.
So again, this isn't a hotel or anything. And unlike a long-term rental, right, where it's over 30 days, a property manager isn't going to be at that property from 8 to 5. They're going to have some other ancillary office, right, where they do their business. They're never going to be at any property from 8 to 5, whether it's a long-term or a short-term rental. That's just a fact.
Do you have any other properties in this area that you rent?
I do not.
This is the only one?
This is the only one, yes.
How many other properties do you have?
Currently, I have 3. This one, I have one in the Smoky Mountains, and I have one in the beach of Texas.
In the where?
In the beach of Texas, Crystal Beach, Texas.
Okay.
I've had up to 7.
Well, you refer to this as a small business. That's why I was asking.
Yeah.
Doesn't sound like very small business. If I were managing 7 properties, I wouldn't consider that a small business. I know things are relative,
Yeah,
but
right.
you know, you're representing yourself as in this position, so.
Yeah, fair enough.
As far as the short-term rental, it's exactly that. You are going to advertise this on, how are you advertising this?
Yeah, so it'll be advertised on Airbnb,
Yeah.
VRBO. Those are the main 2 platforms. We also have other internet marketing that we do.
And the
bring guests in.
intent is exactly short-term rental by the week?
No, typically our short-term rentals, our average stay is 3 days. It's actually under 3 days. 2.4 is our typical stay.
Okay. All right, any other questions?
If I could
Yeah.
really briefly, just want to point out that I think Mr. Jacobson is fully aware now and on notice that when he comes back for the actual permit itself, that he needs to have his ducks in a row with specific names of people that satisfy the requirement for having local people on standby and observing the property routinely. I believe the board has made him aware of that, and when he comes back for the permit, I'm sure he'll be prepared to answer those questions and provide specific answers that we weren't aware that we had to do today.
Okay, thank you. All right, board, any other questions? All right, thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Is there anybody here wishing to speak in favor of the application? Yes, ma'am?
I'm not in favor, I just have some questions.
If you, so this is not a time to ask the applicants questions. Is that your intent?
Yes, it was. Yes, my property butts up against, and I just had some questions.
I think it would be appropriate to voice your concerns.
So let's come forward, and what you can do is, voice the concerns, ask the questions, but I don't know, board, if it's appropriate, to bring the applicant back up to answer the questions. What we could do is time for rebuttal. They could address the questions.
I thought you said this is in support of the application.
No, I'm sorry, I just had some questions, not in
Well,
support
I think it
or
would be better
objection. I
served
just,
to come up in the opposition and ask your questions then.
Okay. All right, let's do that. If you want to just take a seat, actually, just stay right there. Is there anybody else here wishing to speak in favor of the application? All right, opposed to the application? Ma'am, let's go ahead and address your concerns at this point.
Need to be sworn in.
Oh, yeah, you need to be sworn in.
Do you solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
yes, I do.
Thank you.
Name and address?
My name is Janice Lubbers White, and my address is 5019 Hickory Hill Drive in LaGrange.
And you say that that abuts the,
Yes, the
property?
front portion of the property.
okay.
And just in listening, I just had some concerns similar to what some of the board members have said as far as there not being people present in the event that something happens. I know that this pool, or this property has a built-in swimming pool, and concern for neighborhood kids as far as, is the pool access, is there gating around the pool to prevent anything from happening with no one being there? Again, property concerns as far as landscaping and yard upkeep. We have a very quiet neighborhood behind there, and concerns of rowdy people renting, those concerns that I have, similar to what you guys had addressed, that I do have those concerns.
Okay. All right, questions, board members? Okay, thank you. May take a seat. Anybody else in opposition of the application? Okay, rebuttal, if you would like to come forward. You've heard, we're going to consider that opposition. You've heard what that is, and this is a little time for addressing that in rebuttal.
Okay, so I heard three things, and correct me if I'm misheard. Pool access, landscaping and upkeep to the property, and parties or rowdiness. So I'll address those three concerns unless there was another one or something that I missed. Okay, as far as pool access, when I purchased the property, there was no fence around the pool. We have installed metal fencing around the pool. So that is installed and in place. There is it auto closes the gate behind us, and there is a lock up high. I've got 4 kids, and a pool at my own personal residence, so we ensure that there's safety to meet our own personal safety for our family. So we expect that same in our rentals. So yes, we have installed a fence around the pool, keep it safe. Landscaping and upkeep, again, I've got a local company to come weekly to maintain the lawn and the landscaping on that regard. And then as far as rowdy parties, the property itself is actually going to be what I would normally deem more of a luxury property, meaning the price point is going to be a little on a steeper end, which inherently mitigates some of the ability of people to rent it, which would be advantageous to parties sometimes if on a lower price point. And we put a lot of time and effort into design and things like that of the property to attract a higher clientele. So with that, we communicate our expectations of the guests and things like that to minimize the chances of rowdy guests and things of that nature.
Okay, thank you. Yeah.
I'll be really brief, but I would also just want to point out that if there are any rowdy parties or any complaints, those complaints can be made, and there is code enforcement in the area. And so should any concern like that actually arise, then there are remedies for that.
Okay, all right. Ma'am, there's an opportunity for rebuttal for you. Do you have anything else that you'd like to say? And if so, you need to come forward.
My biggest concern is just the upkeep of the property, that it doesn't change our area. We have people that are very proud of their properties, and I would hate for it to be, I understand the purpose and I understand the idea. I just have concerns that where there's not people staying there on a regular basis, that's the only concern that I have, that things will deteriorate. And that's a concern that I have.
Okay, thank you. Okay, board members, questions for anybody? This is the time before I close the floor.
Just a comment I have. It would be helpful with these short-term rental applications to, at least for me, to include what are the short-term rental regulations. Yeah, I mean, I can't remember what they all are, and that might just make the decision process. Oh, they are?
Yeah, we have a
Okay, I'm
copy.
sorry, they are there.
And I think
Okay.
that can assuage a lot of the concerns, because I know you don't have access to it, but the things that the applicant would have to agree to for approval.
Hang on, Gretchen. This is a time before I close the floor.
Okay.
For questions for anybody. Is this addressing a question to somebody?
To the lady, just because of her concerns, I just wanted to clarify that those are addressed, and things
Okay.
that she mentioned are addressed in the short-term rental property regulations. And that would need to be agreed to before approval, so.
Right.
For approval.
Did she hear that? Did you hear that, ma'am? Okay.
Okay. All right. Anything else for anybody in the
That's fine,
audience?
thank you.
All right, I'm going to close the floor, open it up for general discussion.
I mean, I think having the short-term rental property regulations in front of us is helpful in this case, because a lot of these things that are of concern are addressed in 250-050 of the short-term rental property regulations. So I know that the sticking point is the distance of the owner of the property from the property, and where that raises concerns. And that has to be, when he applies for his short-term rental permit, that'll tie a lot of that up, so.
Yeah, I don't know. My problem, so I'm struggling with, I guess, two sides of this. Number one is the issue of not having an identified person. Most, if not all, STRPs that we've had in the past have either been the applicant or a family member or somebody, a responsible person that can watch over the property and take care of the property and be the person that gets called at 10 o'clock at night, or whatever the case. And I think this is the first time that we haven't had something like that, a responsible person or an identified person or persons. Just saying that it's going to be a cleaning company, I struggle with that. As a matter of fact, maybe to the point where in my position, I might not approve this, and for me. Now, I don't know about you guys. But on the flip side, it's a business, it's an LLC. I don't care where they're located, and they're trying to operate a short-term rental property. So they buy a piece of property elsewhere and they, run it STRP. They run it 2.4 days, a week is what they're renting, and it's run as a business. So that's the struggle I have is, it's a commendable business. It's, there's absolutely nothing wrong with it. It's great. But the flip side, I think I may have a sticking point where I need a person or identified, this person is named this, or this person. These two people or this one person are going to be the responsible people here within 25 miles. That's what the regulation says, 25 miles, and I think that's my sticking point. Not a business. That business, I don't know what their hours are. Do they close at 5? I don't know. What happens if something happens to the property at 6 or 10? I don't know. So and I think that sticking point may prevent me from being in favor of this.
If I can, the fact that we have a conditional use permit versus the short-term rental, it's actually a two-step process.
Yeah.
Right? So just because we would approve this piece of property for this use doesn't mean that they will be approved to be a short-term rental, correct? So you've got the requirements for the short-term rental. The question is the property suitable? I think what are we trying to answer? The property suitable for this? and it's acceptable for this, as opposed to actually being someone, I mean, I suppose you could have someone who's operating a short-term rental for, it's every year that they renew that, right?
Yes.
So in 1 year, if there were a challenge with that rental the prior year, you could refuse it.
Correct.
If it's not managed properly, you have a fallback position of, we're not going to approve it next year. You don't have local management. We're having too many police reports. You could just deny it from then on.
Yeah.
Correct.
So that's really not our purview right now.
Yeah. And so to answer your question, it is a two-step process. And so I handle all those short-term rentals when they come in, which is why I get stuck up here with you all on all these short-term rentals doing this, because I'm going to do the second step with them. One of those things I will confirm is that that person is within that 25 miles. And if not, then he doesn't get a short-term rental. You can see in your conditions of approval, it says
Right.
they shall comply with all regulations concerning short-term rental properties outlined in the Oldham County zoning regulations. And then the third one is the applicant shall apply for and be issued short-term rental property permit before ever renting the property. Before he can advertise on VRBO, Airbnb, he has to have that permit visible on that listing. So, and there's people all throughout the community that are checking that. So yeah, it is a two-step process. And then every year, December 31st, at the end of every year, every short-term rental property has to be renewed. So, same way. If too many issues, too many things like that, it can be denied. So, and to answer, Larry's question on, there is one short-term rental property that I know of that they live in Miami. But most of those, on your point, are an individual that is listed as the responsible party, an individual that lives within the 25 miles. I don't know of any that use a company unless it's their own management company that they own and they live close. So that may answer your question a little
Well,
bit.
even so, Miami, and I don't know which case you're talking about, but even at that, I live in Miami and my mother lives here, and my mother's going to be the one that takes care of the property. Well, okay.
Right.
And I understand it's a two-step process. But I guess my point there is, it's this body that's either approving this to be the STRP versus an individual staff that renews the application every year.
No, I agree. I share your concern.
Yeah, I'm not in favor of this.
And it's the first time we've had an out-of-state owner, to my knowledge. I don't know when the Miami one was set up, but I don't know whether we can.
So I have a concern just more administratively. So that if you look at the regulation, it says that the responsible party who shall reside within 25 miles of the STRP shall be conspicuously posted within the STRP unit. So, and the responsible party shall answer calls within 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So when they're renewing the application, they are not necessarily required to designate who that responsible party is. The regulations don't require, at least the way I'm reading it, or the regulations don't require that when the responsible party changes, that they file that with you. And then the next thing would be, okay, so if there is an incident, who do the police or the fire department, whoever, what is the process for our authorities to deal with problems, I guess, is really kind of the question I have. And there's a piece of paper somewhere inside this home that the police or the fire department or somebody has to find to figure out how to deal with a problem. And so the regulations don't deal with more administratively, how do we close the loop?
So I can probably answer the first question for you.
Okay.
So the first question is when they come to renew, and so the initial application is, first page is all their information, all the responsible party, the owner information. Second page, you have to show the floor diagram, get it notarized that you're in compliance with all deed restrictions and all that stuff. And then when they renew every year, they have to do that form every year. And so I look in my spreadsheet, if that responsible party has changed, I go back in and do the same process I did initially. Verify that it's within the 25 miles, and if it's not, hey, I can't give you a renewal.
The regulations don't require that they submit that information.
But they submit an application every year, and that information is on the application.
Okay.
So it's the exact same application that they would do initially. And sometimes the problem, the responsible party, if it were to change halfway through the year, I think there's nothing that says he has to call us and say that. That may have to be visible on his property. It may have to change on that Airbnb information that he provides on that website. But as far as calling me and telling me, I don't know if there's any sort of requirement that he does that. But when he reapplies, I'm going to notice that that's changed from the
I
previous
understand,
year.
but even in the rules, in the STR rules, it does not require that the application include the designation of the responsible party.
But doesn't it require the application be filled out?
But it doesn't, but the application could just be name and address, right?
But that's on the application.
Right.
So the responsible party information is on the application.
What you're not seeing in your packet is the actual application. If you choose to approve a short-term rental, then they fill out an application. You're looking for the actual application. That's not in your packet.
Yeah, I'm looking for a requirement that
It's on
that
the
the responsible
application.
party
It
is
on-
designated and kept up to date.
It's on the application. Yeah. But what you're really struggling with is a cleaning company, how do they become the responsible party at 10 o'clock at night?
Right.
Within 25 miles to respond. And I haven't heard a sufficient answer to that. I think that's what you're really questioning is how does that person become the responsible party?
Yes,
Cleaning
Yeah.
service.
yes.
Yeah,
I mean, here's what I found. This is where I'm at. I asked a specific question. Who was going to be in charge? What I got was, I have a telephone and it's remote. That's fine, but that doesn't quite cover what I think needs to be covered. Then you said you had a cleaning company. What authority does a cleaning lady have? How much authority does she have in terms of making decisions about what needs to be done on their property? I didn't get a proper answer to that. So I got two question marks with regards to your property and how it's going to be managed while you're in Tennessee. So that's where I'm at with it. That's the only place, that's where I am with it.
All right. Anything else before we call for a motion?
Yes. We can add into the potential conditions of approval that these concerns are addressed on the application for the short-term rental property, in that a specific property management entity is named on the application. From what I'm hearing today, when you fill out the application for the short-term rental, a specific person or company or LLC is named on the application, correct?
So yes, we can write or put conditions of approval, but even at that one, I'm not comfortable with that because I want to know that somebody is somebody that has. I don't want to say, or I don't want him to come back and say, well, the manager of this cleaning service, I believe his name is Steve, he's going to be I want somebody that has not only the authority to do something with this property, to take responsibility of this property, but has skin in the game, that has some sort of, it is my brother, or it's a property management company.
That's what I'm thinking.
Okay, a property management company, but not just a name. I don't want just a name. I want somebody that has some intentional purpose with this property, right? And I'm doing this for the neighbors, right? I don't, as a neighbor, if I were, my neighbor, and they said, well, this guy next door is running, a short-term rental property, and there's nobody here that really cares about the property except the guy that owns it, and he's 1,000,000 miles away. But if if I were to say my neighbor is running a short-term rental property, and his brother is half owner of this property, or that has some sort of skin in the game, I guess is the best way of saying it, that makes me much more comfortable. Or a property management company.
That's what I think
That's
too.
their purpose, is to manage the property.
Yes.
I think the concern there is 24-hour access. Because if you have someone who is, even if it's a property management company, they have to have a 24-hour contact. Somebody's got to be in charge of that. Otherwise, if something happens Friday night, you're not going to get somebody till Monday morning.
And that is number 13 in the regulations, that they have to be available 24 hours a
Right,
day.
right.
I think we would all feel more comfortable if the applicant would agree to hire a property management company with a more broad scope of service than cleaning and restoration. But that is something that would be included on the application and not in the approval of the conditional use permit for a short-term rental property that we are addressing today.
Well, I would like to see a broader scope of supervision with regards to that particular property. Because then that means that person can make immediate decisions now if something
Well,
has to be done.
The typical process with a property manager, I mean, there are companies that own 1,000 of these houses, and that's becoming more and more prevalent. You have a property management company that acts as your agent. They have the authority. They have 24-hour availability. And people hire those folks. Large companies hire those people. And that's your backstop.
Yep.
Tate, I'd love to hear your
Well,
take.
I think y'all are trying to legislate and change the current rules and regulations. I understand that. That's their responsibility, and that's what's in the requirements here, and it doesn't identify or define what a responsible person is. You all are defining one as far as you're concerned. I don't know what staff or what the regulations are. I mean, I don't like to put personal stuff in there, but I got a lady that cleans my house, and when we leave, she comes and stays there. She takes care of it all if I need it. But that's me. And she's not a management company, but she's as good as one. And, you know, and he's got an attorney. I just, if you can find me a definition of what a responsible person is, and then you would require that on your application. And that's my only concern. I mean, I don't.
What am I doing?
Just put your paper down there.
I did.
There it is.
There.
There you go.
That never used to have to go upside down before. Let's see if I can get it all.
Yeah, you
Not
need
in
to.
focus either.
There we go. Very bottom of the page, this is section 250050, short-term rental property regulations. On the very bottom of the page is definition of responsible party, a person or business residing or located within 25 miles of the STRP that is responsible for addressing all maintenance and safety concerns. Well, so the question is, does a cleaning company, are they going to be responsible for all maintenance and safety concerns?
Well, if they say they are, it just says a person.
Says a person or business residing or located within 25 miles of the STRP that is responsible for addressing all maintenance and safety concerns.
Mowing the grass and whatever.
So the
And
question is that for
I'm
us?
sorry, but what they've said is they have a cleaning company that's the responsible
within
party,
20
but they didn't say they're going to be responsible for all safety concerns.
Or they live within 25 miles of the property?
They didn't identify who that was.
He didn't know.
And she testified, but that should not, they did not give you that information. You looked up on the internet and found somebody that appears to be the company, but they didn't verify that that's who it is. So I mean, this is what
He
you're.
gave the name. He's
But again,
Denise.
you testified.
Okay.
You're the one that looked it up. They did not give you that
He
information.
didn't have the address.
He didn't have the address.
They didn't look it
I looked it up and I didn't find it, but you did. That doesn't mean that that's the right company. They did not give you testimony on who that company was.
Okay.
So my question is it our responsibility to validate that responsible party, or is it when the STR application is processed, because the responsible party could change every year, but once we approve this, it's in perpetuity. So whose responsibility is it to validate the responsible party? Is it the annual STR application process, or should we come every year together to decide, is that a valid responsible party?
Well, we do that as staff on the actual application or reapplication for that. You're struggling with deciding on a conditional use permit based on the evidence and testimony you're being given today. Don't worry about the future. Are you comfortable and confident in what you hear today? Is this appropriate to be considered a short-term rental?
So my question is, should we rely on the application process for the STR to then validate, is the responsible party an eligible responsible party?
It's not our
Again, I think you rely on what you're hearing today, what the applicant has presented for information. If you have a question in your head about something, you can open the floor again and ask them more questions. If you are confident in what you've heard, you can consider approving. If you're not confident, you can consider denying, based on the evidence and testimony that was presented by the application, not some future condition necessarily.
I'm at the point now where this to me is a decision, that's the judgment of the staff of the department, not of this board. It's not within our purview, I don't think. We aren't monitoring any of this. We aren't checking any of this. What we're being asked is, can we authorize this as a short-term rental property? Dealing with the property, not with the operation. You can have a lot of concerns about it, I think, but it's not necessarily in our purview to make sure Ryan's dotting the i's and crossing the t's every year when they come in with a new application. I think time is what's going to determine the validity of these people. If they continue to have problems, if they have police reports, if they have code enforcement problems, we're going to find out about it eventually. But you can't constantly wear belt and suspenders and catch everything.
But now that we've heard the testimony of the cleaning company being the presumed responsible party, does that make implicit approval of the cleaning company being the responsible party and tie the board's hands when they go to review the STR application?
Well, there
No,
are
it
three
doesn't.
stipulations for that. There's the 25 miles, the conspicuously posted address of that person, and that they are available 24/7, 24 hours, 7 days a week during the duration of the short-term stay. So those are stipulated.
So then, as part of this process, should we even be talking about who the responsible party is?
That's for the staff to determine when they file that final permit. I equate this to like dividing a tract. You have to have a road maintenance agreement. They don't come here with a road maintenance agreement in hand or anything else. That comes from the staff once they get the plat and show that, and then they have to produce the road maintenance agreement, which they have to approve. That's what I equate this to.
That's correct.
Okay. All right.
You heard, this is unusual because we don't typically get out-of-state companies buying property and trying to create a short-term rental without what Mr. Otterback said, having somebody locally that's going to be that direct connection to the owner as opposed to. This is why you're struggling with this application.
Right.
Okay, I agree with what Mr. Combs just said, that we look at it. You're asking really good questions that in my mind have not been thoroughly answered. How does a cleaning company become the responsible party?
They can't.
I think it's a good discussion. I know you're struggling with it. I see this half, I see both sides. We haven't heard testimony on how that cleaning company is going to be the responsible party. It was brought up. They're the ones that said, this is who it's going to be. It's whether or not you have confidence, it's not necessarily in the staff to vet out. It's whether the application is got enough information in it for you to consider approving, and if not, denying.
Could I Is there an opportunity we could ask the applicant if they'd like to table this and come back with the appropriate information in order to answer our questions? As opposed to just deny this at this
I mean,
point?
that's a direction we can certainly take.
If they're interested in doing that.
So, I mean, again, my position is, this is just my position. I am not in favor of the application as it was presented to us today and the testimony given. I'm relying on the testimony that was given by the applicant, and he did not satisfy the questions and concerns that I have to make this an STRP. I understand that the questions we are grappling with falls underneath, under the application, the next step beyond this. But when I'm questioning, trying to protect the community, trying to protect the neighbors, trying to protect, and do our due diligence to what we allow and not allow, I feel like that's our job here. Is we are here to either grant variances for regulations or allow something that's not a use permit of a particular property. STRP is not a use permit. That's why they're here. So is this allowable? That's our question. And to answer that, I'm asking this, and I'm asking that, and I'm asking who's going to manage this thing, even though that gets addressed in the next process. So to you, for you to say, I'm going to ignore that question because it's staff's responsibility in the next process, I think is irresponsible to protect, to do what we're here to do, which is decide and think about the neighbors, think about the community, think about Oldham County and what we want this county to be and grow and et cetera. I'm not comfortable with the answers given. Who's going to manage? Who's going to be responsible? A cleaning company. I'm not accepting that.
Okay.
So my position is I'm going to deny this. That's or table it. I can go either way, but I'm not going to approve it. That's my position.
I think it's responsible to table it until all the answers are in. I think
I mean, that's-
tabling it, I realize that is up to the applicant, but I think it is better than moving forward and denying it based on the many questions that have been
At this
raised.
point, I agree with the chair. I'm not comfortable with this.
Well, I'm not comfortable with the fact that my basic questions haven't been answered to where I'm satisfied with it. So, tabling it might be the best thing to do. But I cannot vote for it, approve it with two of the most important questions not being answered, particularly since you live in Tennessee.
So we either go forward with a motion, or we go forward with a motion. We can either approve, deny, or table. If we're interested in tabling it, I'm going to have to open the floor, call the applicant back up to see if that's a position that he wants to take. Is that what you guys want to do, is open the
That's-
floor and
Yes.
ask to table? If he's
Yes.
okay with
Sure.
it?
Yes.
I need a motion to open the floor.
Motion to open the floor.
Okay, motion's been, I'm sorry. All in favor, or do I have a second?
Second.
Discussion. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? Floor's been reopened. If we can get the applicant to come forward again. You've heard discussion. Are you guys interested in us proceeding with a approve or deny today, or would you prefer to table it and come back with some of the answers?
Yes, we do agree, just for the record, that some of these questions were just based upon the regulations and the system that was set up, not by us, but by this administration. And it's a two-step process, and that's what we were prepared here for, the first step today, and then to comply with the second step. And so we do apologize. We did not come here prepared for the second step today. But we understand the board has concerns and wants more answers before doing this, and so we would agree to table it.
Okay, questions? Okay, anything else before I close the floor? All right, I'm going to close.
Well, I have a question. You saying second step. I have issues with that. It's entanglement, and it's a part of this step too. It's not necessarily a second step. This entwines the whole ball of wax.
Yeah, you're right.
And so that the second step has nothing to do with us. None of us sits on that second step board. So it's simply, it just entwangled. It just became a part of two things. It became one.
Yeah, I'm never going to approve one of these by not asking who's going to take care of the property. Oh, you want a STRP? Yeah, fine. I'll always ask, who's here? You're going to take care of the property? Your mother, your brother? Who's going to take care of that property? Even though it's part of that second step, before I ever approve one of these, I'll always ask that question.
And the staff needs to know that, because they could have come here with those answers already if that's what you're gonna require in the future. Simple as that.
Okay.
There you go.
All right, anything else before we
Our
close the floor?
apologies, again, just our apologies. We did not expect to have that ready
I
today.
understand. Okay. All right, before I close the floor, good? All right, I'm going to close the floor. Any further discussion?
No.
No, I think we've gotten to a good point.
Okay, I'm ready for a motion.
Motion to table OC 23-018 for a conditional use permit for a non-owner occupied short-term property located at 2590 North Highway 393 in LaGrange.
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? It's been tabled. Uh-huh. All right, do we need a break or keep going?
I would make a motion to have a short break.
All right, do I have a second? I'll second. Discussion?
Oh, no.
All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? Short break, please turn your mics off. That's it. All right, I need a motion to come back into session. Turn your mic on, please.
Motion to come back into session?
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? Back in session. Gretchen, if you'd like to read the next one, please.
OC 23-020, an application has been filed requesting a location variance for a proposed detached accessory structure, pole barn, on a property located at 3655 Red Oak Drive, LaGrange.
Brian Fogel, Assistant Director, Oldham County Planning and Development. The Secretary read into the record is a request to construct a pole barn in front of the house and property located at 3655 Red Oak Drive. Proper notification was given for today's hearing through the county's website, adjoining property owner notices, and legal advertisement in the Oldham Mirror newspaper. Highlighted in red here is 3655 Red Oak Drive, which is part of Red Oak Farms, going down Red Oak Drive to Smith Lane. If you go this way down Smith Lane, you get to Highway 42, a little bit off of the photo. If you go this way on Smith Lane, you get yourself back over to 524 to go down into the Westport community. Little bit of history, not a lot. The subdivision was created in June of 1987, and this property, but not this applicant, was before the Code Enforcement Board in regards to construction on the property without obtaining proper building permits. The zoning on the property and that entire area, because of the
Would you back up just one second? When was that zoning issue? The notice, what was?
Oh, I'm going the wrong way, sorry.
Oh, 2004,
Yeah, in
okay, thank you.
2004. They basically were building an addition onto the house and a garage without obtaining the building permits. And then, as now,
There it is, thank
first
you.
we ask, and then when they don't, we have to issue a notice
Sure.
of violation to take it to the board. All right, zoning on the property in the entire area is conservation, residential, because of the steep topography in the area. So the request is to demolish an existing garage that's on the property, that's already located in front of the house, and replace it with a newly constructed pole barn, which would also be in front of the house. The applicant states in their justification that due to the topography of the property, where it drops off behind the house down towards the creek bottom, that this is the only buildable area located on the lot. This is the applicant's plot plan. Where highlighted in yellow is where they're proposing to put the pole barn. The existing house is right here. And then just a couple photos. This is Red Oak Drive right here, their driveway, the house, the couple garages that are there, and storage shed that are there right now. And then over this way is where there's some grading going on, where they're proposing to build the pole barn. And that's the only thing that's been going on right now. They've not started construction on the pole barn. They've just simply been doing some grading on the property. And that's basically the request, is just to build the pole barn in front of the existing house, which requires a variance from the board.
Can you go back a couple of slides? I'll tell you when to stop. Go back, one more. Yeah, right there, that's fine.
Okay.
All right, any questions? Okay, thank you.
All right, and we did not receive any correspondence, emails, or telephone calls in regards to the application.
Okay, thank you. And if we can have the applicant come forward? Hello. And let me get you sworn in and state your name and address.
Do you solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. Name and address.
Shane Caramy, 3655 Red Oak Drive, LaGrange.
Okay, Shane. All right, if you can justify the project.
Sure. So we bought the property, I guess it's been about 5 or 6 months ago, with the intent to add an addition to the house, renovate the house, and kind of a larger scope of work to add a pole barn onto the property. The existing garage, which I didn't know was built in 2004, is rotting out. It's kind of fallen down. So we wanted to demolish that garage and then actually build a bigger one. With the plan of the house and the addition that we want to do, we did just want to relocate where that garage was so it would not impede kind of our view of the rest of the property and the front yard. The house is pretty far back on the buildable, I would say probably 6 or 7 acres or so. Everything behind the house, basically where that tree line starts, does start to fall off quite a bit, and I wouldn't consider buildable. The area directly behind the house where we could put the pole barn without the variance would not really leave any access to it, and really wouldn't be ideal.
Okay. All right, any questions?
I didn't hear the last part of your statement. You said behind the house, it's unbuildable because, I'm sorry, why?
There just really wouldn't be any access to it if it was put behind the house. There's probably only about 50, 60 feet between the back of the house and the tree line where it starts to slope downhill pretty
So it's the
pretty fast.
slope, it's not the tree line necessarily, it's the slope of the topography? Okay.
In the photograph, the other garage and other building, are those on your property or on another property?
They are.
So we're looking at a fourth unit on this property.
And that was, we're gonna demolish the brown garage, detached garage that's there, because it's basically falling apart as it is. The previous owners had the, I guess the shed that they had on site that they had turned into a chicken coop, that we are also planning on moving.
On removing or moving?
Moving it,
Moving.
yes.
Where are you planning on moving it?
It'll still be on the property. I think we'll probably use it as more like a gardening shed or something like that, but it will still be on the property, yes.
You said you're going to demo the brown garage?
Correct.
Is that behind the house?
It is not. It's in front of the house as is.
This is for staff, not for the applicant, so I guess I need to wait.
Yeah, because they're demolishing the brown garage, that gives them an allowance for a new accessory building, which is what they're proposing to build.
That was my concern. Thank you.
I guess, why not put the new building, proposed building where the brown garage is? And it's still going to require, I guess it's still going to require, if he did that, to come here and get a variance because it's in front of the house.
And one reason why we did want to move it is because I guess the size of the building that we want to build, it will block the view that we currently have out of the house, where the house is sitting, basically the entire left side of the property. So moving it over back towards the tree line, almost where you can kind of see that dozer in the picture, it kind of sets it out of the way. We can still have our full view of the property.
How far off the road is the proposed structure?
411 feet.
Here,
or
I got it
so.
right here.
411 from the front yard.
Staff, Brian. So on the packet that we have, this is CO1. Isn't the setback 50 feet?
The front yard setback is 50 feet.
Oh, the front yard. What's the
front
side yard?
The side yard is 15 feet, and the
Thank you.
applicant's indicating that they would locate it in
35.
excess of that with a
Yeah, I was thinking
35-foot
50.
front
Thank
yard
you.
setback.
Okay. Any other questions?
just wanted to add, there are other houses on the street, especially right across the street from us, that have pole barns in front of their house as well.
Okay. Thank you for
So, I
that.
don't-
That helps. Any other questions? All right, thank you. Have a seat. Anybody here wishing to speak in favor? Opposed? And did you get any, you didn't get anything from anybody? Board, questions for anybody? All right, I'll close the floor, open it up for discussion. If no discussion, I'm ready for a motion.
One thing that when we go to have we don't really have a discussion with these meetings. We just kind of presume we're all on the same page, then we vote on it, I suppose. But would just want to voice that I am in favor of this one.
Okay. All right, I'm ready for a motion.
I'm sorry, one moment.
Okay.
Motion to approve OC 23-020 to locate an accessory structure in front of the principal structure on the property located at 3655 Red Oak Drive, and to allow for the construction of a pole barn in the front yard. The variance will not adversely affect the public health, safety, or welfare, and will not alter the essential character of the general vicinity, will not cause hazard or nuisance to the public, and will not allow an unreasonable circumvention of the requirements of the zoning regulations, because this is the only buildable area that serves the purpose for this building, and it will replace a building that already existed there and has now been demolished. Conditional uses or conditions of approval. The variance shall only apply to the application considered on May 18th, 2023's Oldham County Board of Adjustments public hearing.
Okay. Can I get a second?
Second.
Discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? It's been approved. And if you want to read the last one.
OC 23-021, an application has been filed requesting a location variance for a proposed detached accessory structure, pole barn, on a property located at 4721 18 Mile Creek Road in Westport.
Okay, similar request to the application you all just heard, and also in the Westport area, where the applicants are requesting permission to locate a pole barn in front of their house in the front yard at 4721 18 Mile Creek Road. Notification was given for today's hearing through the county's website, the Oldham Air newspaper, and then adjoining property owner notices were mailed. This property is highlighted in red and located on 18 Mile Creek Road. So the intersection of 18 Mile Creek Road and 524 is about right here. And then the road parallels 18 Mile Creek to this property right here near the intersection of Rebel Ridge Road. Little bit of history with this. The property was granted a conditional use in May of 2000 for a prior applicant and owner to operate a pottery or fine art studio out of the home, and also variances were granted for the construction of two additional accessory structures on the property. The zoning in the area is conservation and agricultural. The agricultural zoning is basically paralleling 18 Mile Creek Road, kind of in the bottomland or flatland right there. And then the conservation is on the slopes or hillsides rising up from 18 Mile Creek. Here's an aerial of the property. The applicant's home is right here. They're proposing to locate the pole barn right here in a flat area. They happen to also own the house here on a separate piece of property right here.
Where was that again?
Their home is right here where we have the application for today. they're interested in getting your all's approval.
No, I was talking about the additional.
The additional, they own the home next door here.
Okay.
And we had a couple photos coming up here towards the end that might help illustrate that better. Okay, in their justification statement, they've had the property surveyed, and their surveyor has indicated that the topography behind their home has a 30 to 40% grade uphill. So their house is here. This black mark is where they're proposing to construct the pole barn. And then the house that they also own is located right here. This is a photo from 18 Mile Creek Road of their property. This is the house that they're asking for the permission to build the pole barn in front of. Driveway is over here coming off of 18 Mile Creek Road. The adjoining house that they own is right here, and they're proposing to construct the pole barn approximately in this location here, which corresponds to this location right here. So it is a request to get a variance for permission to construct a pole barn in front of their home and located in the front yard. That concludes staff's presentation. We did not receive any correspondence, emails, or telephone calls in regards to this application.
Okay, questions?
There's already been an approval for 2 accessory structures on the property.
That is correct, but I don't believe those were ever built, or if they were built, I don't see anything that would suggest that they're there now.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Thank you. And if we can have the applicants come forward. Hello. Let's get you sworn in.
Do you solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
And name and address.
Jody Swimmer, 4701 and 4721, 18 Mile Creek Road, Westport, Kentucky.
Rick Lyons, 4721, 4701, 18 Mile Creek, Kentucky.
Okay. And if you guys can justify the project and tell us what it is you're doing.
We don't have any additional structures on the properties, and we would like to have something, storage barn, pole barn, and it is the only place that we have figured out to put it. We've had other people look, and it's the spot that we have to put a structure. There were, as far as we know, there were never any other structures built on the properties.
Okay. All right, questions? Actually, if you, Ryan, could you go back a slide to show the full property? Or maybe it's forward a slide, yeah, that right there.
Okay.
So Jody, you just said that, did you just say that it's the only place that you could find to put?
Yes, because the property does slope down and it gets very wet. It looks like we could do that in the field, but it's
It's still in front of the house, but.
It's still in front of the house, and this we're going to try to push back as close to the woods as we possibly can.
From the road.
Yeah, to snuggle it in. We don't want to obstruct our views either.
I don't know if it's in front or side, but it looks like it's barren land right now. But
Yes.
closer to the house, is that not a spot? And maybe that's also in front, I can't tell.
I'm sorry.
So,
Let's see if I can. You're talking about like this
nope,
area?
keep going back. Use your mouse. Go back toward the house, 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 back toward the house. Now stop there, go left. Yeah, right there.
Okay, so it's a driveway, and I think that in that area of the trees right back there, I think she wanted to do like a yoga studio at one time. I think that might have been where she was going to put an additional structure.
Oh, is that not on your property?
It is our property, but it's a really small area.
Okay, so
Yeah.
that's also
And
not suitable for what you want?
It's not, yeah. It still slopes, yeah.
Okay.
It doesn't say what size is the building you're putting, not that it matters much, but the size of the building.
What is it? 60 by 80, 60 by 40, 60 by 40.
2,400 square feet.
How far off the road are you proposing?
We figured over 160 feet.
Okay, good enough. And you said nowhere in front of that, that's the only location in front of the house. Obviously, that's why you're here, is it's against regulation in front of. What about behind the house or on the side of the house? Is there any place to put
There,
it?
there's no, it all goes, slopes right up. That
Okay.
house was put right into the hill.
Okay.
Yeah. And of course, we want to appreciate the neighborhood and build a beautiful structure. You know, it won't be,
Okay.
it'll be pretty.
Is trying to address the answer of general character of the neighborhood. Is there anybody else that has a pole barn located similar?
Most of them are all in front of the homes and may or may not be as attractive as what we're planning.
Okay.
Well, but yeah, most of the properties have their pole barns well in front of the properties. In fact, I don't know of any that are behind.
So you would say it definitely falls within character?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right, any other questions?
No.
Okay, thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Is there anybody here wishing to speak in favor of the application? Yes, ma'am? And let's get you sworn in.
Do you solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank
Name
you.
and address?
Dean Patton, I live at 2750 Rebel Ridge Road, Westport, Kentucky 40077. And my property fronts on 18 Mile Creek Road. I'm just down the creek from them a little bit, but my driveway shoots onto Rebel Ridge Road, which intersects 18 Mile Creek Road just down the creek from their property.
Okay.
So I'm in favor of them getting this. It's the 18 Mile Creek Road Valley meanders right along the creek and has a floodplain, and everybody who's built has snuggled their houses as far away from the creek as they can before the ravines and hills shoot up on either side. And it's like very scenic, but you can't, typically everybody builds their house at the back of the hill, and so there's not area behind the houses to build pole barns. And we have a pole barn. It would be in front of our house because our house is facing 18 Mile Creek, but if you turned and faced our driveway in the road, then the building would be behind us, but it's really kind of in front of us, and it's a pole barn. And we have neighbors down the creek, one from us, also have a pole barn in front of their house, similar thing, houses on the hill, base of the hill, barn down in front. And I think one property up the creek on their side also has the house on the hill, and the pole barn structures have been built in front of their property. So and as you go up and down this whole valley, it's kind of that way. Because the creek also, when it flash floods, it's a mighty sight to see, and a lot of water comes off the hills. And a lot of these fields, as you get close to the road, they flash flood. So anyway, and what they're doing is lovely with the property, and I think it's fitting for our neighborhood.
Good, thank you. Any questions? Thank you.
Okay, and my husband and I built our house in the late 70s, so we've been out here a long time.
Okay, all right, very good. Okay, anybody else wishing to speak in favor? Opposed? Board, questions for anybody? Okay, I'll close the floor, open it up for discussion.
I have nothing.
If no discussion, I'm ready for a motion.
Motion to approve OC 23-021 to locate an accessory structure in front of the principal structure on property located at 4721 18 Mile Creek Road to allow for the construction of a pole barn in the front yard. The variance, a motion to approve the variance because it will not adversely affect the public health, safety, or welfare and will not alter the essential character of the general vicinity and will not cause hazard or nuisance to the public, and will not allow an unreasonable circumvention of the requirements of the zoning regulation because topography and ground conditions limit building on other areas on the property. The variance shall only apply to the application considered at the May 18th, 2023 Oldham County Board of Adjustments public hearing.
All right. Can I get a second?
Second.
Thank you, Charles. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? It's been approved. Okay. Board, you all received the minutes. Are there any changes to the minutes? If not, can I get a motion to approve?
I'll move it. Motion to approve.
All right, can I get a second?
I'll second.
Thank
Charles
you.
wasn't here, so.
Thank you, Charlie. Discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Minutes approved. Any other business?
Nope.
Okay, can I get a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn?
Can I get a second? I'll second.
What's the green?
Discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Meeting adjourned.